Hello, I'm Alec. I'm a consultant and I just want to hang out. So we got a fun bit today. Check out this title right here. What is a squatter? So we're going to have fun with this one, but before we show you what a squatter is, I just want to give a shout out to Florida. This is why. So the governor of Florida signed Florida Senate Bill 322 to extend remedies and protections against squatting to commercial property owners. That's a cool thing. All right, let's keep it going. It says Florida Senate Bill 322 expedites the removal of unauthorized individuals occupying commercial properties, providing property owners with a streamlined process to regain possession of their property. So we think that that's a cool thing when our government entities actually do their job and protect the commercial realm. But the sad thing is that there's a lot of people who own property and they don't get this type of protection, especially like in places like California, and we don't like that. So we're going to do this bit and we're going to show you what a squatter is, because we think the men and the women of America should protect themselves from these types of entities, okay? So check it out. What is a squatter? Focus on the highlight, okay? Summary. A squatter is someone who occupies property without legal permission and may gain ownership through adverse possession if certain conditions are met. Okay, what does that look like? That looks like somebody's going into your property when you're not there, and then they sit in your property, and then before you come back, you could be gone for months, and then when you come back, then somebody's in there, and then by a legal trick, then they can have possession of your property. That's a hoax, and that's not cool, and we're going to show you what's up with this after this summary. All right, check it out. It says a squatter lives on a property to which they have no title, right, or lease. Drop down. It says property owners who neglect their property could lose their title to squatters through adverse possession. So there goes the key trick right there. It says property owners who neglect their property. So if you don't have somebody administering your property when you're not there, then this is what happens. Someone can go squat on your property, okay? Drop down. It says trespassing and squatting are different, although trespassers can eventually become squatters. Okay, that's just some legalese right there, because if someone's trespassing on your property, and they have no authority to do that, they're always going to be trespassing. But when they talk about squatting's a whole different game, okay? And you just got to learn the rules to the game in order for you to beat those squatters up, okay? All right, drop down. It says state laws governing squatters and adverse possession vary, and local laws can sometimes supersede state regulations. Okay, so I guess when you would squat, this is one back in the day when you would see, like acreages of land, and you would be like, yo, I'm gonna go sit on that land and I'm gonna build something on that land. And then when the owner finally comes around, who knows, it could be like years later or decades later, and then you've built a whole community on that land. That's how squatting initially started. You would build a whole community on that land, right? But now people are doing it and they're going into people's homes and then they're taking over their homes, still using little sneaky tricks. All right, drop down. Check out this bit right here. It says in New York City, in New York, a squatter who continuously occupies a property for 30 days gains the legal right to remain on the property as a tenant of the owner, even though they never signed a lease agreement. All right, so we're just going to say that that's a hoax right there, because we don't know how they're using legislative laws to supersede constitutional rights, okay? Because your property is your property. You got to remember the rules to the game, okay? So what do we have right here? We say challenge accepted. So I wish somebody would try to squat on my property, because we're going to take it to the court and we're going to see who has all political power, okay? Me or you. All right, let's hop on our next slide. Here we go. Game on. Words are indicators of the mind or thought. What does that mean? That means that we're going to know everything about you because of the words that you say, okay? So whatever hyphen man, whatever hyphen woman, whatever hyphen people you want to call yourself, we know who you are and we know what you are and we know who your master is, okay? So the moment that you call yourself a person, we know that you're not one of the people, okay? And we know that we can run jurisdiction over you all day, all night. Now, check out what a squatter is, okay? Squatter. one that squats or sits close. That's what a squatter is, get those reps on. In the United States, one that settles on new land without a title. Repeat, one that settles on new land without a title. So I don't know how you can squat in someone's house, because that is not called new land, okay? So if you're squatting in someone's property, that's not new land. That's already someone else's land. You're just using sleight of hand tricks to get in that property game, okay? And we don't like that. Now drop down and we're going to show you what settle is, okay? Settle is set, and whenever we see set, we see trust, okay? Settle is seat. Settle is bench. Settle is something to sit on. Settle is to fix. Settle is to establish. And settle is to make permanent in any place. Okay? Another example of that is that the people established the Constitution of the United States of America. The people established the Constitution of the state of California. The people established all the constitutions of the United States of America, and you can't get around that, right? So we don't care who you call yourself or what you call yourself. What you call yourself, if you're one of the people, then you have all political power. If you fall under the jurisdiction of the constitutions, then you're subject to we the people. Remember this, and we're going to be cool. So now we're going to show you this opportunity zone right here, okay? Check out this Oz right here. Teach God's property management plan. Repeat. Teach God's property management plan. See evidence below. Check out this one right here. This one's fun. 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. What's another name for that? Property manager. So man has always been a property manager. They just got tricked out of the game by the subtle, sneaky serpent. All right, let's keep it going. It says 1. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. What does that mean? That means that everything that the Creator created is His property. And man, I'm man. I'm just the trustee of my Father's property, which means that I have a duty and I have an obligation to keep and dress it, okay? Let's keep it going. 22. It says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. What does that look like? That looks like you better learn how to plan your estate, because one of these days your lights are going to go out and then your property is going to have to go to your children, right? And if you don't have it set up in an organized way, then you're just going to get turned out and you're just going to get tricked out, and people are going to eat off of your property, okay? That's going to get lost in the sauce in what they call probate land. All right, let's keep it going. 6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. What does that look like? That looks like you should be teaching your children how to operate in trust. That looks like you need to teach your children how to operate in private associations. That looks like you need to teach your children how to operate and administer their state's constitutions, okay? And then that way they don't get turned out and they don't get tricked out by subtle, sneaky words like squatters, okay? Remember this, and we're going to be cool. It means a whole lot more, but I'm just focusing on the squatter bit right now, okay? So we're done with that slide. Let's hop on our next bit. Here we go. We got a true story for you. True story. Don't squat on me. In the United States, I am free to enjoy and defend my life, my liberty, and my property. See evidence below. So we're just going to show you one provision from the California Constitution right now that will just dust off all of those so-called squatters' rights, okay? Look at this bit right here. It says, all people are by nature free and independent and have inalienable rights. Among these are enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and pursuing and obtaining safety, happiness, and privacy. What does that mean? That means that you can't squat on my property. So you think that you may be able to break into my property and you may be able to sit on it for 30 days and then all of a sudden you have an unofficial contract with me? I'm going to be like, no way, bro. You just trespassed on my property. You invaded my life. You invaded my liberty. You invaded my property without due process of law, right? You had no authority to do that, and now I'm going to punish you. So let's go ahead and take it to the court, okay? I don't care what legislative rules you think that you're playing in. I'm playing with all political power. You want to test me? Let's take it to the court and let's see who has the stronger words, the people or creatures of the people. I bet you the people win every time, hands down, okay? So we're done with that bit. Let's hop on our next bit. Here we go. Conclusion. Let's close out. Trust God. Keep and dress God's property. Repeat. Keep and dress God's property. That's that property management plan, okay? Check it out. Protect neighbors with trust tools. Why are you doing that? Because you don't want your neighbors to have somebody squat on their property, right? Because there's very subtle, sneaky people out here who will go and they will try to squat on your neighbor's property. And this is why you should do things in trust, and you should set up trust agreements with your neighbors, so then that way you can act as a trustee for them, or they can act as a trustee for you in certain situations, and then everybody's going to be cool, okay? Check it out. Show the people how to move with simplicity. Test, break, and build free people by God with love. Game over. All right, we're done with that bit now. So we just wanted to show you what a squatter is, because we just see a lot of people getting turned out and tricked out by legalese, or we see a lot of people getting turned out and tricked out by lawfare because they do not know the rules to the game. So then Florida or states or legislatures have to make legislative code to protect the commercial realm, but they're forgetting about the private property realm, because the people in the private property realm don't know the law, and those that do know the law, they have expensive attorneys that show them the law, right? But all you have to do is just go read your state's constitutions, and then once you see what your declared rights are, those are going to trump any legislative code all day, all night. Remember this, and we're going to be cool, okay? So if you want us to build you a simple trust tool, and if you want us to show you how to administer this trust tool so you can administer your property in the private realm, you should contact us. Our information is either going to be on the screen or in the description, or you can go to the profile, you can get it there, you can give me a call, and you can say, hello, I really appreciated that presentation you did the other day about squatters. Can you show me how to protect my property? And can you put my property in God's property management plan? Can you help me? And if you and I seem like we're going to be a good fit, then we'll hook you up, we'll get to work for you, and then we'll show you how to execute the trust with simplicity. Until then, I'll talk to you guys in the future. Remember, nobody's having more fun than us. Bye.